high-performance, complex, inorganic color pigments for powder coating, manufactured by TOMATEC Japan, exclusively represented by IDCC Global Chem Private Limited. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome one more time Mr. Bharat Arora. He started his journey in the year 1993 from Old Delhi Chemical Market, and now IDCC Global Chem represent 24 global companies and serve almost 2,500 customers pan-India with more than 25 years of experience, and after attending more than 150 seminars and conferences, he is here, and besides, he has gained a lot of in-depth technical knowledge of multiple industries like coatings, printing, inks, flexible packaging, and many more. And today he is here to talk about high-performance, complex, inorganic color pigments for powder coating. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Bharat Arora one more time with a huge round of applause.
Thank you so much once again. Coming back in so large numbers. I really appreciate, like your energy as well, being in the presentation since morning until afternoon, and it's not that easy. So thank you so much for turning back in such large numbers. So we're going to discuss about high performance pigments. Just a brief about company. This is TOMATEC. They make high performance pigment. Company based out in Japan. 2 plants in Japan, a plant in Indonesia, and a plant in China. What actually makes it more impressive is that they're in Southeast Asia, and they're actually in free trade zones. What means is that time after time, since the duties are 0%, we as a customer, we as an audience, we as an industry, we keep on getting the cost advantage. Besides, as what we're going to discuss about the merits of the product. So the former company name was Tokan Material, and now the official name is TOMATEC Company Limited. The brand name is TOMATEC. It's a company based in Japan. They got about 19,000 people working with them. That's a turnaround of work strength what they have. So annual sales of capital about $1.1 billion. Annual sales about $7.3 billion. And they have multifunctional businesses. One of the business, of course, what we're talking about, which falls into our scope of responsibility is functional material, which is TOMATEC, and as we're going to cover up in subsequent slides, that's where the headquarters is located. That's a headquarter building. So it's Osaka head office. So likewise, I mentioned they got 4 plants. It's a company established in 1950. And it has been a journey of 72 years put together. And a plant in China, 2 in Japan, and 1 in Indonesia. So major products in functional products is glass frets, and the other one is CICP, which is complex inorganic color pigments. I'm not sure that how many would be of interest in glass frets, but just to give a little light on it, this is generally a product which is used for applications like porcelain enamel, for glaze, for electric devices, and insulating plug, where you get a better heat stability. That helps in terms of better heat stability, and also the DOI, the gloss levels of the porcelain gets improved, and also the heat resistance, like what I mentioned. That's about the location. Like, they got offices also in US, the plants, where all they're located, the Osaka plant, the Kyushu plant, and the plant in Indonesia. So likewise, I mentioned that we have that responsibility for India. The list of overseas distributors, and India as a second last falls in our scope, and the production sites in terms of the operations. So that's what is CICP pigments. Sometimes we call it as mixed metal oxide, we call it as complex inorganic pigment, but the meaning is quite similar. Now, a few of the applications what you can see in the picture before I go to the next slide. This is a very interesting application that always excites me, which is an outdoor application. How many amongst you would be covering up, I am sure, quite a lot must be covering about an outdoor application. So herein, this is one of those illustrations where you wanted to have good weatherability, for garden fencing, for outdoor furniture, which is powder coated, of course, for that matter. That's one of the application which one can cover up. Of course, appliances, likewise for refrigerators, for ACs, for air coolers, and all of that, including fans, which is a very important industry for powder coating. That's a classification of pigments. Okay, now that's a very, very important slide. This shows an insight about that what kind of merits we can obtain out of the CICP pigments or mixed metal oxide pigments. So having it compared with iron oxide pigments, with chrome oxide pigments, with the dyes and organic pigments. So if we have it compared the chroma, the chroma, which means like the brightness or the saturated colors as we got it in organic pigments, somehow we are a decimal, 2 decimals less as compared on chroma. But if we talk about the rest of the characteristics which are more to highlight upon or kind of to consider upon, the hiding power of CICP pigments is brilliant. So having it compared with, like if you see on the scale, having it compared with organics or the dyes, the hiding power is phenomenal. And then we talk about weatherability. So I'm quite sure you must have, how many of you have heard about Florida test or Arizona test okay, brilliant. Now this is where this pigment plays a very important role. We come up with data in case somebody would like to have it. It has got a Florida approval, it has got an Arizona approval. What means is that 5 years is the minimum, onwards to 10 and 15 years. Recently I was talking to somebody in our old office. We had one of the facades which was done out of, not the facade, I should say, it was a powder coated aluminum section. What we did with taking the powder coating from one of our friends, and we did it about 14 years back. And recently we start to look at the color. Of course, the building has been painted 4 times since then, but that aluminum section is just like that. And it has been 14 years. And that is out of one of the pigments we are talking about here. So the weatherability is excellent. The heat stability is pretty good. It starts from 800 degree onwards to 1300 degree onwards. The minimum heat stability what you can get out of this pigment is 800 and onwards to 1300. So if you're doing powder coatings for exterior, which I'm sure you must be doing it, silicone powder coatings, for example, where you need a very high temperature resistance, Teflon coatings, muffler coatings, all of those examples where we need to have a high stability with the pigmentation. That's the pigment what we can, go for. Chemical resistance, of course, this is also a very important test in powder coating, which means gasoline resistance. One of the questions came in the previous presentation was about the gasoline, petrol resistance for that matter, acid resistance, alkali resistance. It is just perfect in all those. Dispersion, that's a very important point to cover up here. So as you can see from the slide, I move a little back. As you can see from the slide here, it is only the dyes which has got good dispersion and then CICP pigments. The rest, you need to put a lot of energy to it. And while we're putting in energy to it, sometimes if the energy varies, then probably there's a colored variation which is there. This is very easy to disperse. So while you are milling it, a homogenization or a milling as the way you would be doing it, this is very, very easy to disperse. So having it compared with dyes, all products are good, nothing against them. But if you see the weatherability versus dyes is excellent, heat stability versus dyes is excellent, and chemical is also excellent. So dyes, as we all know, that it has got limited resistance to light fastness and heat resistance, whereas in CICP pigments, this is well taken care of. So the dispersions are as good as dyes, and then you get all of the rest characteristics. These are a few color illustrations. These days we talk about chrome free, isn't it? We talk about chrome free, lead free, what else? Barium free. So these pigments are free from all of that, and then you get variety of colors as well. So likewise, sometimes we talk about pigments which we wanted to make it chrome free. We get 42401A is a lemon yellow color, and it's straight to give an effect like a chrome free effect. And then there are a few illustrations. So this is more like pigment blue 28 is more like a color of an ultramarine blue, very bright blue color, what you must have seen on porcelain crockery as a reference point. A very bright color and with all those characteristics of heat, weather stability, and so on and so forth. These are representative examples of CIC pigments like basic chemical formula, tin, cobalt, aluminium, different products with different blends, with different color index numbers, and of course the CAS numbers in reference to that. A little bit about applications. We are talking about one of those applications, which is coatings, which includes powders, the decorative, the industrial, solvent-based, water-based, you name a coating it can be used for. And the other application, the second application is ceramic. By default or by chance, if you're covering ceramics, ceramics require a very high temperature. You've got to take it on a firing range, which is 800 and beyond. And it is mixed metal oxide, which can be used for ceramics. Plastics, indoor components. So like I said, if you have another business activity just covering up on plastics as well. If you've got any other business activity where you are selling like PP compounds, for example, or the compounding for automotive interiors, as you know, these high-end cars, you do a color and then it's expected of the driver, the car manufacturer, to deliver a color which remains as good as the top coat, the interiors, and also the interiors. And that's where this is one of those applications where the CICP pigments can be used very, very effectively. Yeah, this is all about the advantages. A very, very important slide to pay attention and to look for, please. The dispersibilities, it's very easy to disperse. Likewise, you mentioned about dyes, it's very easy to disperse. It complies with all this, most of the safety regulations. We're going to cover up in subsequent slides. Opacity is highest. Heat resistance is excellent. I mentioned already 800 onwards. Chemical resistance is excellent, so acid, alkali, gasoline is brilliant. Weather stability, excellent. I already gave an example of something which is 14 years. This is one pigment. You do it, use it, and forget it. The color will just remain as the way it is. And you have different scopes of application to cover up. Likewise, from powders to liquids to solvent-based and all of that. It's a non-migrating pigment. So we have heard about concerns of certain pigments getting migrated, due to atmospheric conditions, due to high temperatures, due to over a period of time, the migration starts to happen. But in this case, this is a non-migrating pigment too. It's a color processing of plastic products. So I'm just, okay, so this is about the manufacturing process. The question is that how do we get that higher heat stability? So we take raw metal, we put into calcination process. Since the calcination happens at 800 degree onwards, 800 to 1300 degree onwards, we automatically get an end result or an end product which can withstand that temperature, which is 800 and onwards. And when we're talking about that, how come it gets so good a dispersion? The particle size is so fine. It's 0.5 to 1.5, mix up very fast. And that's where, these are the factors behind giving fast dispersion. This quality control and the color tone. So in fact, when you go to these slides, that's how the quality control, the quality is controlled by the factors is what is mentioned here, which eventually gives us these characteristics: chemical resistance, weatherability, heat resistance, dispersibility, and analyzation of heavy metal content. We discuss about heavy metal content free product day in, day out these days. Biodegradable product, compostable product, environmentally free product, heavy metal free products. I believe that's what we are discussing these days very often, isn't it? Yes, that's something what we are discussing around the globe, not just in India. Quality control analyzing devices. So these are the devices what's being used to see that the quality is same time after time, and there are strict procedures for that. There's a colorimeter, there's a particle size analyzer to see that the particle is always between 0.5 to 1.5, like was mentioned. And eventually, we're talking of crystal structure, the electron microsphere, the reflection and absorption measurement, which is done out of UV, vis-NIR, to scan all elements composing the metal, which means cobalt, barium, and so on and so forth. To fix quantity of ppm impurities, there is an ICP-MS which is there to fix the quantity of impurities, especially alkaline elements. We make a use of AA methods. That's about the safety of CI-CP pigments. So it's stable crystal structure owing to high temperature calcination process. So it's very stable. It's safe is because it is already passed through a very high temperature, not dissolved in water, alkali and acid, and it's got global food contact approved, which means it is approved out of FDA, EU, Chinese regulation, WHO, SPA, which is Japan regulation. It means European regulations such as REACH. That was the prior one was food contact, and the REACH and the regulations are REACH, SVHC, ROHS, ELV directive. These are the, I'm quite sure these are the regulations you must be coming across day in, day out from your customers. This is a broad outlook of what all regulations we have. So as you can see, most of them, we got tick marks in ROHS. The Japanese regulation, JHO, SPA has got full ticks. European Union, the REACH has got full ticks. And these are three major, prominent, renowned regulations which are generally asked in the industry. These are color variations, few more color shades. So one of our customers, that was very interesting, I would like to share this with you. One of our customers, a few years back, they come up and said that I wanted to make a green color for garden fencing. The benches of the garden, and they wanted to do it something for Middle East. It was an export order. So they came up and said that we want to do something for Middle East, and you know what the temperature in Middle East is about, 45, 50. And the in-can temperature, once it is shipped from India to Middle East, it even gets 10 degrees higher or probably 15 degrees higher. And they wanted to have something with excellent weather stability, because in Middle East you see there are high temperatures, and also the temperature drops down, not that much, but that was the ask of the customer. And that is what they picked for. 633A, perfect for garden fencing, for exports, no matter whatever country you are thinking about to export upon, and having that apprehension that whether it will work in Middle East or it will work in Europe or it will work in US because of expansion and contraction, which means excessive heat and excessive winters, these pigments, all of them can work very well for that. So that was just one of those examples. Thought of sharing with you that this can be a product for garden fencing. This is actually a new product, Pigment Brown 48. I'm not sure how many amongst you, are making a brown color where you wanted to make a brown color, and you probably might be taking one or two colors to mix it. So that's one of the ways how you make brown color. You take yellow, you take black, and etc., and then you make a brown color. Now this is an independent coffee brown color, and with all those characteristics which I mentioned, heat stability, weatherability, chemical resistance, and it's a straight color. There's no mixture in it, and it gives you a coffee brown color. And you know the avenues. You can use it for fans. You can, with respect to end applications, I don't have to say much. You know where all it can be used. But yes, fan industry, cross the mind, and that's where whites and browns are generally the colors which is the call of that industry. So that it can be used here. So likewise on the pointer 3, it's heat stable against heat, weather, and chemicals. And to say that again, it has got a strong hiding power too. It's friendly to human and environment, so it's nickel-free, zinc-free, barium-free. That's a physical and chemical resistance of Pigment Brown 48. So weather resistance, heat resistance, and all of that. That's advantage of new Brown 48. I already mentioned the new product in the range, dark brown shade. And in browns itself, we got about 3-4 browns, though they've been classified as Brown 48, but then there is a difference in the color tone, the color hue. The dark brown shade is supposed to give ourselves a coffee brown color. You wanted to make it more saturated brown, you add a little bit of black, within the same family group of CICP and you make a chocolate brown color, or you wanted to make a darker color, you add a little bit of black to it. It has got high dispersion, friendly to human and environment, FDA compliant, high durability in heat, weather and chemicals. This is a very interesting subject. I always like it out of the reasons which I'm going to share. These are IR reflective pigments. So, you know, in country like India, where we have these high temperature, and sometimes it becomes a little unbearable in the summers. And so one of those applications is that if you take it on the rooftop, or if you take it on the facade, or if you have any other application, you apply the coating on the top, so the outside temperature and the inside temperature, there should theoretically be a difference of 13 degrees centigrade to 15 degrees centigrade. What it means is, if outside temperature is 45, we got to feel as if the inside temperature is about 30 to 35. And because it is IR reflective, so the IR rays infrared rays are reflected, and the heat doesn't transmit inside the component. In this case, if you're talking a building, it doesn't travels from the roof to inside the hall. So this is one of those graphs justifying that what it is. So as we can see that carbon black is within the range of 65, close to 70. Nothing against carbon black, we also work in carbon